In the year 287 BC, in a city of wealth, war, and wonder, a child was born who would become the greatest inventor the ancient world had ever known. His name was Archimedes. Mathematician, engineer, scientist, and dreamer. For over 2,000 years, his mind has continued to shape the world we live in. This is his story. Welcome to Biographies Highlight. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Archimedes was born in Syracuse, a Greek city-state on the island of Sicily. Syracuse was no backwater village. By the 3rd century BC, it was a jewel of the Mediterranean world. Its twin harbors were filled with trade ships carrying grain, oil, and wine. Its fertile lands made it wealthy. Its navy, with triremes and merchant fleets, projected power across the sea. The city was founded centuries earlier by Greek colonists from Corinth, and by Archimedes' time, it had already fought wars with Athens, Carthage, and other great powers. Syracuse was strategically located, halfway between mainland Greece, North Africa, and Italy. Whoever controlled Syracuse could dominate Mediterranean trade. The Syracusans were proud of their independence, but also pragmatic. They aligned with powerful allies when needed, and they cultivated art, culture, and knowledge. Great theaters hosted plays. Temples rose in marble. And among its citizens, thinkers and inventors flourished. This was the environment into which Archimedes was born, a city where war and culture lived side by side, where wealth created opportunities, and where a curious boy could dream. As a young man, Archimedes left Syracuse for Egypt. His destination was the greatest center of learning in the ancient world, Alexandria. The Library of Alexandria was a place of legend. Built under the rule of the Ptolemies, its goal was nothing less than to collect every book, scroll, and scrap of knowledge on Earth. Ships entering Alexandria's harbor were searched for manuscripts. Copyists took texts from Greece, Babylonia, Egypt, India, and beyond, preserving them for future generations. Here, Archimedes studied under the successors of Euclid, the great mathematician whose elements laid the foundation of geometry. He absorbed the works of Conon of Samos, who charted the stars, and perhaps of Apollonius of Perga, who studied curves and conic sections. He likely met Eratosthenes, who measured the circumference of the earth with astonishing accuracy. Alexandria was a city of scholars, astronomers, doctors, and engineers. It was here that Archimedes learned the tools of pure mathematics and science. He mastered geometry, ratios, and the laws of mechanics. He studied astronomy and the movement of planets. He learned about hydraulics, anatomy, and geography. But Archimedes was not destined to remain a theorist in Egypt. He returned to Syracuse, where he combined what he had learned with a unique gift, the ability to transform theory into practical invention. One of the most famous stories of Archimedes begins with a problem. King Hieron II, ruler of Syracuse, had commissioned a golden crown. But he suspected the goldsmith had cheated him, mixing silver into the crown and keeping the extra gold for himself. The king wanted proof. Yet Archimedes could not melt the crown down without destroying it. How could he test its purity? The solution came in a moment of brilliance. While bathing, Archimedes noticed that the water level rose as he lowered himself into the tub. He realized that any object placed in water displaces its own volume of liquid. By comparing the displaced water of the crown with that of pure gold, he could detect whether it had been adulterated with silver. Overcome with excitement, Archimedes leapt from the bath and ran naked through the streets of Syracuse shouting, "Eureka! I have found it!" Whether legend or truth, the principle he discovered was real. It became known as Archimedes' principle, a law of physics still taught today. The story captures the essence of his genius, a man who saw hidden laws in everyday life. But Archimedes was not just a man of baths and crowns. His true genius lay in mathematics. He calculated areas, surfaces, and volumes with unprecedented accuracy. He discovered formulas for spheres, cones, and cylinders. He worked tirelessly to approximate the value of pi, showing that it lay between 3 and 1/7 and 3 and 10^71. This was the most accurate estimate of his time, and it remained so for centuries. Archimedes also studied spirals, parabolas, and centers of gravity. He devised methods of exhaustion, slicing shapes into infinite parts, a precursor to integral calculus, which Newton and Leibniz would rediscover almost 2,000 years later. In the sand reckoner, Archimedes demonstrated the power of numbers. He created a system to describe unimaginably large quantities, even greater than the number of grains of sand it would take to fill the universe. It was a staggering vision, mathematics as a tool not just for geometry, but for describing infinity itself. For Archimedes, mathematics was not abstract. It was the key to understanding reality, a bridge between thought and the physical world. Archimedes' inventions were legendary. His Archimedean screw, a simple spiral device, lifted water from low ground to high. Farmers and engineers used it to irrigate fields and drain mines, and it remains in use today in some parts of the world. He designed compound pulleys that allowed one man to move enormous weights. In one famous demonstration, Archimedes is said to have launched a massive warship by himself using a system of pulleys. He built war engines, catapults, cranes, and defenses. The claw of Archimedes was a giant crane with hooks that could lift enemy ships from the water and smash them against rocks. Later writers describe burning mirrors that focus sunlight to ignite Roman ships, though whether this was real or legend is still debated. Archimedes was a man who could turn imagination into machinery, who saw no divide between theory and practice. His inventions protected his city and astonished his enemies. In 214 BC, Archimedes' brilliance was tested as never before. Rome, rising in power, laid siege to Syracuse during the Second Punic War. The Romans expected an easy victory. Instead, they were met with terror. Archimedes' machines hurled stones with incredible force, sinking ships before they could land. His cranes lifted vessels from the water. His catapults fired at ranges the Romans had never seen. Soldiers whispered that they fought not against men, but against the hand of a god. For 2 years, Syracuse held out. Roman commanders grew frustrated, but they feared Archimedes more than the city's soldiers. His genius delayed one of the greatest military powers of the ancient world. In 212 BC, however, betrayal allowed the Romans to enter the city by night. Syracuse fell. Amid the chaos, Archimedes was killed. Despite orders to spare him, a soldier struck him down as he studied mathematical diagrams in the sand. His last words are said to have been, "Do not disturb my circles." With his death, the ancient world lost its greatest mind. Centuries later, Archimedes' works survived only in fragments. Some were lost, others copied imperfectly by medieval scribes. But in the year 1906, a remarkable discovery changed everything. A scholar named Johann Heiberg uncovered a Byzantine prayer book written over an older manuscript. Beneath the words of Christian liturgy lay hidden texts, the erased works of Archimedes. This was the Archimedes palimpsest. Among its treasures was the Method of Mechanical Theorems, a lost work in which Archimedes revealed how he used mechanics to discover mathematical truths. In it, he hinted at concepts strikingly similar to calculus, a science not formally born until the 17th century. The palimpsest proved that Archimedes had gone further than anyone had imagined. He was not only the greatest inventor of antiquity, but a thinker whose ideas foreshadowed the very foundations of modern science. Archimedes' influence echoed through history. The Romans admired his machines, though they could not replicate his genius. The Arabs preserved some of his texts during the Middle Ages. Renaissance scholars rediscovered him, inspiring Galileo, who called him a master. Newton built upon his methods. Engineers and scientists to this day use principles he first uncovered. His principle of buoyancy is fundamental to shipbuilding. His laws of levers and pulleys form the basis of mechanics. His mathematics prepared the ground for calculus and physics. More than 2,000 years after his death, Archimedes still shapes our world. Archimedes once said, "Give me a place to stand, and I will move the earth." Though he never found that place, he did move the world, not with brute strength, but with the power of the human mind. He lived in an age of kings and empires, yet his vision reached beyond them all. Archimedes was more than a mathematician. He was a dreamer and inventor, a genius whose light still shines across the centuries.